We had seen that the sinner would lay his hands on the head of the animal to be sacrificed, and then he would sacrifice the animal. Leviticus 4:29 tells us, "And he shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and kill the sin offering at the place of the burnt offering." Now it should be obvious that the animal represents Christ and that Christ died for the sinner. As we saw by way of Galatians 3:13 and 2 Corinthians 5:21, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. He saved us from the penalty of sin by becoming sin for us. There we see the exchange. He bore our sins in his body, as we read in 1 Peter 2:24, who himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, having died to sins, might live for righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. Therefore, since the blood makes atonement and represents life, as we see in Leviticus 17:11, and Jesus took our sins upon himself, we can easily understand that the blood of the animal representing its life symbolically took the sins onto itself, just as Jesus took our sins onto himself and gave his life for us, and thereby became sin and a curse for us. Just as the animal had the sins of the sinner transferred upon itself, symbolically depicted by way of the sinner laying his hand upon the animal's head, so it was that Christ had a crown of thorns placed upon his head. When sin entered the world, so did thorns. Therefore, the thorns placed on the head of Christ represent the sins of the world, just as the sinner would place his hands upon the head of the animal that died in his place. Since the sin offering died for the sinner, and the sinner would lay his hand upon its head before it died, the laying on of hands was thus an important, symbolic, and necessary act in the ritual of the sin offering. Therefore, the laying on of hands, in the context I am dealing with, reveals who will bear the burden for the sin.